Okay, so welcome again, folks. Today, we have something for you. We have the man behind the mask. We have Mr. Ashanti Branch. Ashanti was raised by a single mother on welfare in Oakland. He went on to study engineering at California Polytechnic, San Luis Obispo. A civil engineer in his first career, Ashanti found his passion for teaching while tutoring struggling students. In 2004, as a first-year teacher, Ashanti started the Ever Forward Club to provide a support group for African American and Latino males who were not achieving to the level of their potential. The Ever Forward Club has helped 100% of its members graduate high school. Branch is on a mission to change the way that students interact with their education and the way schools interact with students. After being featured in the Mask You Live In documentary and fellowships at the Stanford D School, Campaign for Black Male Achievement, and the Gratitude Network, Ashanti has launched the hashtag Million Mask Movement to connect people all over the world in a self-reflective experience that helps people visualize and realize, I am not alone. Welcome, Ashanti, and thank you for joining us here at the Inside Circle podcast today.
And I'm glad to be here with you, and thank you for reading that. It's always humbling, and also just sometimes I'm like, who is that, right? Because on the day-to-day, the highlight reel is very different, So thank you for having me here.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome, and thank you for the work that you do in supporting not just people of color, but especially young males of color to be able to realize their potential and move forward through life with a sense of agency and ownership over not just who they are, but who they can be.
Yeah, and that's the work, right? And imagine that work is heavy, and part of our work is trying to start upstream, right? When we can see what's happening downstream when things are not going well. And I was like, well, how can we see it? We see it in middle school. We see it in elementary school. Teachers notice things, but we don't do anything about it, right? We don't address it, So I think part of it is making sure that we are not holding the young people responsible for a community that raised them to be in a really destructive way, And I think that is the challenge. Part of the work is like, I'm here in this interview with you, and then there's somebody here repairing the door, right? Because I'm on a one-room office, so when something got to get repaired, people just show up, and what we do, like in the moment, I'm like, don't you? I'm sure I told you I was about to do an interview. Like, what made you think that drilling the door right now was going to be a good idea? But what do? You just take a breath, and we keep it pushing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a huge piece of the work, man. That's a huge piece of the work. Continuing to move forward, at least for myself, in spite of what can feel like the world crashing down around me.
Man, that's a great phrase to say. Yeah. And how do you just make sure that in that continue moving forward, that you're also mindful of what you need to do for your own well-being and self-care? If I know that for a lot of my life, I didn't even know what self-care was. I'm just like, I'm a hard worker. I work hard. I'll go 100%. And no one ever said, you need to take time. People used to say, you should rest some. I'm like, I ain't tired. I think the rest always was me to like, you rest when you're tired, but if you're not tired, you don't need to rest. But I wasn't even doing the maintenance stuff for my own self, And I think that it catches up with you. It'll catch up with you quickly. And sometimes it catches up with you unexpectedly,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think those are the ones that are like, oh, wow, it's a big deal. But it's beautiful once you become aware of it. You're like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit, I need to like take some time to take a break, right? I'm feeling this. Maybe I should deal with this, as opposed to like, I don't feel nothing. I don't notice nothing, and just plowing through it. Then you look up and you're like, you're in the hospital, which has happened once before when I was overwhelming myself. I didn't even know I was overwhelming myself because I never even knew I didn't even know that existed, right? I think when you grow up in a struggle situation, like it's almost like when I grew up, I'm gonna just talk about me coming to an education world. When I grew up, I didn't know anybody who had allergies when I grew up. Like when I grew up, I don't remember anybody having allergies. I mean, maybe I'm sure they had them. I'm just telling you what I don't remember. When I became a teacher and an educator, I mean, it was like kids. I got a list of papers for kids, like with all these allergies. I'm like, where did these come from? Like, did they just show up out of like? Because in my community, like, there's nobody has no one. Hey, go blow your nose. go sit down somewhere. Like it was like whatever was going on with you, there was nobody going to a doctor to figure it out. It was just like you better put some what they say, put some Robitussin on it, right? Whatever they say for the home remedies, right?
Yeah.
but I think that part of just taking care of, and I'm learning that a lot as an adult, right? I think not only the self-care, but also the emotional care. Like
Mm-hmm.
I tell people in some of my talks, I say, you know what? I think I've cried more in the last 10 years than I have in my whole life. Like when I finally got to a place, I joined a men's team where I was like a space that, wait a minute, I have a permission to feel this. You sure? Like people are not just gonna walk out. People are not just gonna leave. People are not gonna like laugh at me. People are not like gonna shame me. People are, like, and then just finally trusting that space enough to say, okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And I think that has absolutely transformed my life in so many ways.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
finding that space, you spoke to, I heard some things in there, and you spoke to finding that space and moving into a place where you could feel what you were feeling and not have concern about what others thought or how it looked. What was it like for you growing up and you didn't have that safe space?
It was kind of lonely. It was kind of lonely. I think I was the oldest. My mom, raised us by herself. I had three siblings. Well, me, and then first it was just three of us, and then and that time was when my uncle was just like, "You're the man of the house. You gotta take care of your mom and your sister and your brother." So that was my role, and there was no option around it. It wasn't like he was saying, "Hey, I got an opportunity for you." It was like, "No, you got to be the man of the house, take care of everybody." And then what do I know about being a man at 7? Like, you know what I'm saying? There's not even a man here that is helping me figure it out. I barely learned how to not have my mom yell at me because I'm peeing on the seat in the in the bathroom. I put the seat down. Like I'm still trying to figure out that part. You want me to be the man of the house? Like, and I remember just feeling like not equipped. I feel like being definitely not enough. Like, what does that look like? Every man I saw, I didn't have their muscles, I didn't have their money, I didn't have their car, I didn't have their stuff, I didn't have even the know-how, like what I was doing. We were just trying to be in charge. But I just say, look, I can take care of my siblings. I was the man of the house, but I was like Mr. Mom, right? I was like I was taking care of I took care of the house. Like my mom didn't
Mhm.
have to worry about stuff. Like I had my chores got done, right? She would fuss about the dusting or whatever, but that was just her. But I was taking care of the house, right? So I didn't know what it meant to be a man outside of my mom's house. I knew what it meant to her to be a man of the house in the house. It means you help, you be kind, you take care of your siblings, you make them breakfast, you take care of make sure they do their homework, all these responsibilities that I had. But when I went out of the house, those qualities weren't what people said makes you a real man. So I was like confused. It was conflicting too.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm caring, I'm loving. I can make a 4-course meal if I need to, right? Outside the house, what? Stop smiling so much. What you so happy about? What you so nice for? Why you always helping people up when they fall? Like everything I was doing outside the house that worked really well in the house wasn't okay. And so I had to adopt a new set of rules of what it meant to be a man outside as it versus in my mom's house. And those rules were very different, like I went to the basketball court waiting to play. I'm thinking that's how it works. You play next. You just wait till you wait your turn. And what happens if you waiting for 2 hours and you haven't played yet? Something I don't know about the rules because I've been waiting. I don't even know what the line is, right? And they're like, man, you don't wait. You go out on the court while people are playing and you just yell like, I got next. You're not even asking. It's not even a negotiation. This is a declaration of what you're gonna do. And maybe one person will be like, you know what, actually, I got next. And then you don't even ask that person. You just be like, well, I'm on your team then. I mean, at what point am I saying I would like to play next? Like, if you don't know any better, you would never play because the rules are not set up so that somebody who was taught that you have to ask for permission, you have to wait your turn, you stand in line, like all those things. And so I had to learn 2 different sets of rules. And I learned how to get really good at just Yep, I'm next. Oh, you next? Okay, I'm on your team. Oh, and then he's like, I got 5 already. I'm like, well, I'm after you then. Like I'm setting myself up for the next thing that I'm gonna take because it's not a request. It's actually I'm declaring what's about to happen, right? And I've seen people even come out on the court and be like, "Oh no, you ain't next. I'm actually next." I mean, I've seen people do and that's not my style, but there are people who be that kind of ridiculous. I'm like, wait, where'd that come from? He
Yeah.
just showed up. How is he taking over that guy's next? But those are rules that are out there that people do, and then you realize, okay, there's some other stuff going on, some other dynamics going on, right? That you can imagine, right? And I think that's been some of the journey of me trying to figure out, okay, all right, we gotta navigate these rules because if you bring some of those outside rules back into my mom's house, hey mama, give me some Kool-Aid. She'd be like, Who you talking to? I'm like, oh God, I'm at home. Hi mother, can I please have a cup of, like the rule, if
Yeah.
you get mixed up where you're at, you're gonna get quickly checked back into the box. And
Yeah.
that's how it happened a lot of times.
That sounds like a very fine line and trying to balance two different worlds. One is very aggressive and the other is not so aggressive.
Yeah,
And for
absolutely.
a young mind to be able to reconcile those two worlds and balance those two worlds, that sounds heavy.
I think it was heavy and confusing. like like I was raised by a mom who was really caring and loving. I think I was really kind and loving. I think you heard this quote by Dave Chappelle where he says something like, his mom told him that he had to be a lion outside to be the lamb who he really was, right? You had to like prove to people. And I remember like when I went to this school in the Oakland Hills, for fourth grade. A new school, like all the Heartland schools were, I was in and out, and I was trying to find new schools that could navigate my energy or whatever. I get to the school up in the hills. It was supposed to be a really good school. First day off the bus, fourth grade. I remember like I have a fight. First day. Like, show up at this school. I'm like, oh, the kids are playing tag. Oh my God, I'm playing tag. They're like, okay, we in Heartland, tag is rarely played. You know what I'm saying? Everybody in fourth grade is already trying to be like, I'll just stand here and watch everybody. They're playing tag. I'm like, oh, we get to play? Playing tag. This kid starts being a little aggressive. He starts like tapping me, like tagging me really weird. I'm like, hey, why are you doing that? And then I was always a chunky kid. So I can't outrun him. He's like the speedy guy, and he always comes to tag me. And I remember realizing he wasn't tagging me. He was actually hitting me every time so he would like tell people tag me, and he would run after me, and he would like do this little tap thing. And I remember being like, hey, can you stop doing that? Like, why are you doing that? Like, and he was like, and he kept doing it, and we did it like 3 or 4 times. I said, hey, don't do that anymore, right? And so in that moment when I actually told him don't do that anymore, he's like, oh, what? And I'm like, I had a choice. I could either walk away, that's one option. I can go tell, that's another option, or I can force him by force to stop. Now, I also know that like I'm a new kid in a new school. Like, well, I don't like to fight. And I remember that day fighting was something with me was like telling was not good. You're gonna be a snitch. Not doing anything means that everyone's gonna start picking on you. I mean, I'm making this in my 8-year-old mind, right? I don't. I'm not an analyst. I'm just a kid who knows my community enough to know that the options I have are limited. But if I don't fight him, if I don't make him stop
Mhm,
because he's not stopping by me
mhm.
asking, then it's gonna get worse. And so what I didn't expect is that I had a fight with him, and I unfortunately I got into a place in my mind where I couldn't stop hitting him, right? And it was like really bad, right? What I remember is after that, all the other kids, and he wasn't necessarily the alpha of the playground, but he was like in training. So he was like using his power to be like, oh, I have a new kid. I'm gonna show him every day after that, like not every day, but many days after that, all the tough kids thought that I was tough. They thought I was coming to the new school to try and prove something, and I'm like, I didn't want to have that fight. Like I didn't. And I remember after that, I mean, I probably got suspended from fourth grade to sixth grade probably 20 times at least,
Mhm.
all for fights, all for people who are like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? And I'm a hothead, and I'm young, and I'm a little baby cobra, and I'm gonna just spit venom like over. I don't start nothing, but I remember none of them did I start. I never started to fight, and I remember feeling like the need was like the option is the other side of that is even worse, right? So anyway, I think the reason I went to that conversation was because I felt like that early programming in me was like, you either gonna step up or you're gonna get taken advantage of. And I remember feeling taken advantage of a lot. I think at 8 years old, you know, I was just my I didn't know I was gonna have where I was gonna go with this, but at 8 years old, I was at a camp and I was sexually assaulted, and I remember that situation causing me to a place of like you can't tell anybody. Like
Mhm.
I remember my mom like like at the door knocking, saying, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And I remember like being like, "Oh, I just hit my head on something," and I just made up a story. But I remember I can't tell her this. And she only found out like 2 months ago, November, when it came out on CNN. How ridiculous is that? Like I had held that story, and somehow in the heat of the moment of being at a event, I said it, and they were filming, and I've been wanting to tell her. I wanted to write this in the book. I didn't want her to find out anywhere but from me. And I was like, oh my God. So it was like a journey of like, what's going on? Like I held that story for what, 30, 40, 30 plus years. Like, and realized that, oh man, it was doing stuff in the behind the scenes of my life. My food addiction was
Mhm.
connected to that, right? I went to comfort. Like the only way I could put that story away is I needed something else to like soothe all the stuff. And I didn't know I didn't know food became the soothing thing for it. I didn't even realize it till maybe this past year. What I use
Yeah.
food for, why my weight has always been just up and down. And I mean, I can be dedicated for 6 months and lose a bunch of weight, but it's coming back because I'm going back to the stuff I was doing before, the cookies, sugar, pie, everything I love to eat for comfort. I'm not eating it for fuel. I'm not eating it for health. I'm eating it because it makes me feel good. And those things are like new parts of my life that I am really trying to work on now because it's been
Yeah.
rough, right? Yeah.
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 It's even sometimes even saying it right now is like even like, am I saying this? I don't think I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna say this here. And like even deciding to say it was like, no, we're not saying that here. And then it was like, okay, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? What is it's like I think I'm starting to break free from the story because the story has held me
Mhm. Mhm.
bound for so long, right?
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
I I don't take it lightly, and I also know that it is not easy to tell sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to re-traumatize or take our audience down a rabbit hole that they may not be really equipped to deal with or have the support to deal with.
Yeah.
But something we say here at Inside Circle is not all prisons have walls.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when you talk about the story and how breaking free from the story, that really resonates with that saying that not all prisons have
Man.
walls, and having that locked in there for 30 or 40 years. I sit with a lot of people. It's something that I've dealt with myself. And especially in our culture,
Yeah. Yeah.
these are the sorts of things that we just don't talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are the sorts of things, the more I do this work and the more I sit with people, the more I learn it's more prevalent than people may be aware of. And we're not doing the necessary work to heal from that.
Yeah. Yeah. All prisons don't have walls. That's a beautiful way to say it. Um, and thank you for that. Thank you for that. Because I think that part is a part where it's like um, helping my mom realize that um, it's not her fault, right? Like at 8 years old, my thought was like, I'm gonna need to protect the family. I'm the man of the house. So first, how do you as a man allow this? But then second, well, if my mom is expecting me to be the man of the house too, then this is not something that she can deal with. And so my response was like, I got it. And I think that how many times do we deal with so many different things as men, as young people, as adults who are saying, I got it. I don't need to talk about this to anybody. And we carry it. We carry it, whether we carry it on our shoulder, in our heart, in our head, in our body, in our organs. Like we carry it. And I think that part of it is like recognizing I didn't join a men's team till 11 years ago, 2010. I didn't even know men's teams existed. I didn't even know there was this place where you could trust men. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I was in a fraternity in college. I mean, I could trust those men, but we just talked about stepping and partying and, you know, whatever. We didn't really talk about heart stuff, you know? And I remember, like, I didn't know there was a place where you could go and like just get real. And when I found that, oh man, it was night and day. It changed literally. The first time I went to the circle, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, where has this been all my life, right? And it's not for everybody. Everyone doesn't go to a men's circle and feel totally like I want to be a part of this. For some people, it's nerve wracking. It's scary, especially if you have a issue with being around other men, right? But
Mhm.
I did, but about it. It's not that I had an issue. I just didn't know. I never had it, so I didn't something unfamiliar. When I got that space to be in a circle with men who could get into the middle of the circle and just say, man, this is what's happening with me. And I'm just like, he's telling his real business, you know? Like he's telling real stuff, like, and no one's flinching, you know? And on the contrary, people are like, how can we support you? What do you need? Like, not trying to fix him, but asking him what he needs. Like,
Yeah.
do you want advice? What do you want? Do you want to hear a similar story? What do you like? How can we serve you to get through what you're going through? Do you need to just vent? Do you need to just have a place to just, because sometimes we just need a place to vent, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I found that's, I mean, and so I've used the circle of always. I've used it to ask for advice. I've used it to just hear similar stories. I've used it to vent, to just get in the dirt and just be like, what is good, you know, whatever it is. And sometimes I need it because I need them to help me move to a new place in my life. I need to leave with some action steps to like to take from where I'm at to where I really want to be and really get some support. And so, I mean, that's a learning. But what if you never had that? And when I invite men to the circle, or definitely when young men come to our work, when they come to, they're like, nah, I don't need that. I don't need no. I had a young man the other day. He just got released from jail. His mom reached out to me. She's struggling with him. He doesn't want to be in school. He doesn't like school online. He's out stealing cars. He's just got out of jail. He when I talked to him on the phone, I was like, his mom was trying to get some support for him. I was like, hey, so tell me what happened. That's what happened the other day. He's like, oh yeah, some friends picked me up, and yeah, I didn't even know. We fell asleep in this car, and then we got woke up by the police. The car was stolen. I'm like, oh, okay. And I said to him, I said, can I just replay what you just told me? I was like, you just said that your friends came to pick you up. You got into a car. Y'all fell asleep in it. You didn't know it was stolen. And the whole night riding around, like I said, is that your story you think I want to hear, or is that like your truth? Because I'm not here to judge you, but I just want to let you know if you tell that in court, you're gonna be in trouble because that story is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you telling me, like, I'm not. I don't even consider myself that smart. But that story, uh, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, and I really was saying to him, like, look, brother, you don't owe me nothing. I'm not here to judge you, but you right now are telling you're preparing yourself for this idea. And I think it was when I got to that story was like, how do we give our young people a space to say, you know, like I asked him, said, do you need a mentor? His mom wants a mentor for him, but he's like, I don't need no mentor, man. What I look like having a mentor? I'm like, I don't know, maybe you need some extra support. And he's 15, right? He's 15, but he's the man in his house. There's no other male
Yeah.
in the house, and so he's already got a program, and he's already in behaviors that are showing up in really unhealthy ways for him. And his mom is already like, I don't know what to do. And so those are the layers that we just see over and over again. That it doesn't start. It does not like just one day somebody decides to be in a negative situation. I think sometimes it's the day by day, the programming, and then no support comes, or when the support comes, you don't even know you need it. So therefore, you're like, man, I don't need that. I'm good. And those are the ones we just say, well, but I'm here for you. If you decide, whenever you feel like, you're at the end of the rope and you're like, I don't even know where to go next, hey, reach out. But you're going to have to decide what you need. Because I can't tell you what you need. I'm not here to tell you that. And those are and some relationships are different with other young men too, where they know they've been looking for it. They're like, yeah, I could benefit from something like this. And then they engage and they start letting go. They start breathing more. They start letting some of that built up stuff out, so they're not carrying it by themselves. And
Yeah.
it's been a beautiful journey, man. I tell you, I didn't plan to do this work. I didn't plan to. I wanted to be rich. You know, I grew up in Florida. I was like, I'm gonna be rich. Like they told me there's a formula. They said if you study hard, you go to college, you get a good job, you make a lot of money, you can live happily ever after. I'm like, sign me up for happily ever after.
Yeah.
You mean I get to live a Disney dream? Like, sign me up. And I started making money and realizing, I'm just at happy hour. I'm just I'm just invested in happy hour every week. Friday 5 p.m. we get happy, and we happy all the way till Sunday 7 p.m. And they were like, "Oh, okay, I'm going back." And it wasn't the challenge for me. Wasn't that I liked the work. It just wasn't this thing that I thought was bringing me this fulfilling. Like I feel super fulfilled in my work, right? Like imagine what if you could do the work, but you're not fulfilled. That I don't know. I don't know what's worse. I don't. I can experience from both sides. I mean, the work I get to do right now is super fulfilling. It doesn't always make me feel like I really want to feel in the financial category, but in the heart category, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like the engineering was in the heart category, like, but in the financial category, it was like, so I basically I swapped them, and now we're in the but I feel like every day I get up, I get to do the thing that I feel like I was born to do, that I'm good at.
Yeah.
And some things I'm really bad at. The business side of this work. Like if you saw this desk, good thing I can just crop out what I want you to see. Cause like 2 inches that way and 2 inches that way is is bad news, like I wouldn't want anybody to walk in here and see this mess right here, but I get to craft it right now. So the good one benefit of Zoom is I get to like create the space, right?
You get to use it as a mask.
Oh, you better believe it. You better believe it. Oh, I was on a show the other day and I had a team member. I said, "Can you take a picture for me so I can post it later?" I was doing a talk and I'm boom, boom, boom. And I get home and I'm ready to post a picture. And I'm like, "What's wrong with the picture?" Because the picture was taken from like over there.
Mhm.
And all I see is I'm looking right here. So I wanted this picture, but this picture, you got to be like right here. Because the only way you can see this picture is if you in front of the mess. But the piles of stuff that was on my desk, I was like, I'm not posting that picture. And I remember like sitting there like, why are you not posting that picture? Like, because what's behind it, this is exactly behind the mask, right? It's like, yeah, that's not how it looks. That's not how it really looks. That's not how the desk really looks. This is what I've given you. I created this for you, But right,
Yeah.
but like those, yeah, it's surrounded. I'm surrounded by stuff,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's hilarious. So I was like, I still haven't posted that picture. I think I may post it now that I'm talking to you about it. I think I'm more ready to be like, here's why I didn't post it, right? Because I was embarrassed. I was like, this is embarrassing that my desk looks like that. But it doesn't look like that to people when I get to show them, right? Because I've crafted it really well.
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
So in that vein, and speaking about the mask, could you take the opportunity to explain to our listeners about the Million Mask Challenge and what that's about and where that came from?
Yeah, man. So the work that we're featured in this documentary called The Mask You Live In. In that documentary, they came and filmed me when I was a dean at Fremont High School in Oakland. I was working with a group of young men who were going through their own life and academic challenges. Most times schools are set up to just focus on your academic stuff. So if you're not doing good in classes, then you're not doing good. They're rarely set up to be like, we're going to make sure we support students in a lot of these different ways. And so I just had the students who were having trouble academically for the most part, but they were just getting kicked out of classes a lot. So they were like, they wanted to come film. And I said, well, you should probably go to one of our other clubs that is doing really well. Because this club, these young men, they don't open up. They're just like, they're in front of each other. They're all tens, right? Everybody's like got their mat. And I was like, well, they were like, well, we want to see where you are. Like, do you run the other club? I said, I don't run the other club. That's run by, Devin over there. And they were like, well, we want to see where you're going to be. And I said, well, just as long as you're ready to see resistance, because these young men are going to resist. And they're like, oh yeah, I said, I'm glad you want to see that. And what we did is I was like, well, you're going to come and film. And these young men are going to sit around the circle and act like everything's fine and everything's great in their life. How's it going to help anybody? How's it going to help any young men out there in the world? Because they won't talk about it. I've been with them for months. They don't talk about it. They just lie to each other, I mean, I'm the dean, so I know what's going on behind the scenes. In front of each other, I can't tell their business in the circle. My job is to hold space, you know? So what they do is uh I was like, well, what if I can just have them do something where they don't have to talk about it? I mean, literally, I was freaking out because I was like, I don't want to be embarrassed on this, filming. Like, like this is an opportunity for us to be a part of something. And what I realized was that in that moment, I was just like, well, this is gonna have to, hopefully this works. I mean, I had two other things under my chair that I was gonna run to if this thing didn't work. And so I had them take a piece of paper. It was a mask on it, and there were 3 words on the front and the back. The words on the front, 3 were, what are the things about yourself that you gladly let the world see? What are
Mhm.
qualities and characteristics of yourself that you gladly let the world see? That's the front of the mask. And on the back, I just want you to write, what are the things that you normally don't let people see? What are the things that you don't normally talk about? And literally, they were anonymous. So they balled the papers up. We threw them at each other. And that was the first time we had done it. And literally, if you see the documentary, The Mask You Live in, that scene, I am just responding to the fact that they have opened up for the first time ever in front of each other. Like literally, I was just like, my eyes were like going back and forth because I'm like, oh my goodness, like there's emotions happening here that they had never opened up. And I'm like, so I'm navigating it in the real time, And with that movement, we realized that this tool has a way of really helping people to connect because it's not anonymous, but it's also, it helps you to make it really simple. One picture plus 6 words. And so the Million Mask movement now is a global campaign. I mean, it started with those young men at Fremont High School in Oakland, California, but it has grown. We've collected over 50,000 masks from 20 different countries. And what we do is we invite people to, and this is for all people. They started with the young men, but it's a global campaign. So we ask people to write. We have these postcards that we use, but now we have a digital version because now everything is on Zoom. But like I have some masks in here. So basically, it's like a postcard. I'll show you one. I'm gonna show you two. I'm gonna show you 2 different ages, and just so you can kind of get a feel for it. So what we ask people to do is on this card, they will write. They will draw a picture on the front, and they will write 3 words on the front. Those are the qualities that we let people see. So this one says happy, friendly, and appreciated. I think it says. What does it say?
Approachable.
Approachable. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. You can help me out. How about that? Because I'm seeing it backwards. So on the back, so that's the front of the mask. What this student gladly lets people see. And can you read the back? What he wrote?
The back of the mask, the 3 words are depressed, anxiety, and scared.
Now, can you describe this person? Can you describe them for the audience? This the city. What city is this person
The
from?
city is Dublin, the age is 47, and the gender is male.
Yeah. So then I'm gonna put on another one. I'm gonna put another one. This is a different one. So this one is a younger person. So this one is the
The
front.
front of the mask says funny, happy, and sarcastic. And the back of the mask is dark sarcasm, sadness, and feelings. Age 14, gender is male, from the city of De La Salle.
Yeah. And that's a school, right? And what we know is that we see this all over. And when we go into the site, I mean, this is the first. I did a workshop maybe a couple of weeks ago. The first time live, it was a hybrid. So some of the students were at live, and some of the students were in their classrooms, and some were online. So it was like but it's always really beautiful to me when I get to see these cards, and I recognize that, man, people just need a little space. They just need a little room, and they want to like let some of it go, I believe. And what they recognize, that if they do their own in their minds, they think nobody else is getting real. So what happens is we in the workshops when we're doing online, we show a video that shows masks from all over the world. When we were used to do them in live, we would actually bring up students, and we would like read a couple of masks off, like from the room, because there's one thing to watch a video of masks from around the world, but there's a different thing when you say, oh, I'm gonna pull out some random masks from this room.
Mhm.
That's a whole other thing. And when they recognize that, oh, wait a minute, it's us too, because it's easy to disconnect and be like, oh, that's people over there, that's people over there, oh, that's older people, but when you're saying these just came from you all, and now you're in the seat, you're worried, you're kind of worried, you're wondering, are they gonna pick mine? But they're all anonymous, right? You, in your mind, you think people are gonna know it's you, but ultimately no one knows. And when you read the words on the back, you see similar stuff over and over again, and I think that that's just kind of how the beauty of this campaign has been growing, and it's been growing away from us, which is so beautiful, because I go into the site and now there's masks. So people can go on the website and make their masks digitally now. And it's been
Yeah.
beautiful. I think we started a new peer mentoring program that's launching, where students are getting inspired. And we were like, how are we going to hit 1 million? How am I going to present to 1 million people in any, reasonable amount of time? But we're going to be training students who are inspired by this work, who then will go into their communities, to their own school, and then to surrounding schools to present this work to students and invite them to take off the mask, right? And giving the young people agency, and giving them let their voice be heard. And we've seen our first group of 16 students in Alameda. They have taken their whole school through the activity, all 1,250 students, and it's been beautiful. It's growing. So they're now going to the next high school. They're going to present there, and then they're going to be going to the middle schools. And so like I started with 8 young men in a room. I wasn't looking at a global movement. I was looking at these 8 young men who I wanted to have a deep experience, and that just really being intentional and focusing on them has created this ripple effect that is taken us in lots of different places. So I'm really that's the Million Mask movement in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that our listeners, if they are interested in going and creating their own mask, where can they do so?
Yeah. So the website would be 100, the number 100K masks.com. So 100K masks.com. And it'll just open up. It'll say draw a mask, and then you can submit a mask. And if you're an educator, or you have a team, or you want to do it with people, there will be the platform. We're revising it, or we're updating it. I guess these are coding words. We're rolling out a new version. that's the tech language, right? We're gonna have a beta test of our new version coming up in the next couple of weeks. Educators can actually sign in. They can like add a class. They can put like a certain class on there, like a class like first period, third period, whatever. And then when those students go make that mask with that code, they can then see like a word cloud made from the words their students put. They'll see like a ranking of the top 3 words from the front and the top 3 words on the back. It's going to be a way for them to be able to recognize, even though they're anonymous, here's what your students are dealing with. Because I think oftentimes schools, we have teachers who are qualified for the subject, but the reason teachers, I think, often battle and miss out is because they haven't built the relationships. And the relationships is how, when I learned that, when I first became a first year teacher, the reason Ever Forward started was because I saw smart young men in my class who were failing. I'm like, dude, you can't fail my class. Like, you're smart. Like maybe fail the class when one of these teachers don't like you, but I love you, and I'm only here for you. I'm not here for this money. I'm here for you. And what we realized in that work was that that they needed a space as well. I needed to build relationships. I needed to like have a connection. Like, I knew the math, but I didn't know relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that oftentimes that like teachers who come in with plenty of content knowledge have no relationship skills. Because if I come to class being like I'm perfect, I was taught by my older teachers when I first started teaching. When you come to school, you put all your problems in the glove compartment, and then you come into school and you don't have any problems. And then when you leave, you can pick your problems up on the way back out. So it's going. I don't think they were trying to make you a monster or a robot, but it was just like saying, don't bring your problems to the class. But what happens if you are that kind of person, then when a kid is going through something and you don't even accept that you have problems going on, you can dismiss their problems. You can dismiss that they're having a human experience because you've just like, I know how to put my problems away at the door, so you should know how to do that too. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen so often. And I think that's when we miss students. We miss students who just are going through life stuff. And I think that sometimes as adults, we have forgotten what it was like to be 15, 14, 13. Like we can remember the essence, but the day-to-day of it, and we didn't have to worry. I mean, I didn't have to worry about no cell phones or nobody calling me names online. If somebody want to call me a name, they do it in my face. Or they tell somebody and that person comes to tell me, but it's not like 5,500 people already have called me names. And I just showed up on Monday and now people were like wanting to fight me. Like, what happened? What's going on? Right? Well, that's a whole nother level of worry that students have to deal with now with social media that I didn't have to think about. And so adults don't understand it as much, especially adults who don't even have social media. They don't even understand the power, presence, and the unintended consequences of social media, right? And I think those are just the layers that we got to do for our students in a bit to help them navigate the world in a better way, you know?
Yeah. What I
Yeah.
heard in everything that you said, what really stood out for me was how so many of our young children pick up messages in the home and in the street and on the playground that allowed me to be able to normalize and rationalize detaching. And then I heard you describe the way teachers are indoctrinated in functioning in a certain way. And so what our kids are learning in school and having reinforced is the ability to detach from their humanity.
There it is. There it is. All day long. And now we're on Zoom, right? So imagine that in a new level, right? We're like, there are many schools who don't require students to have their camera on. Now, I get the reasonings. I get it. Like maybe it makes the bandwidth messed up. Maybe it's hard. Maybe they don't want the kid to be stressed out about having to be seen. And so, how many students are we know right now are not being seen at all? Right? They may even show up to class. I have one freshman in our program. He was in our academy this summer. I asked him how many people. He's a freshman in high school. How many students do you know in your freshman class? He was like, maybe 4. I'm like, I said, can you name them? He names 3 of them. He said, there's another one I think is, you couldn't remember it was Robert or Ramon. He was like, I said, well, how do you know them? If you don't know them. He said, well, I see them. They're in my classes. So the same people are in his classes. So that's the only reason he knows them. He knows their backdrop or their little image. He knows them by name. I said, what their voice sound like? He has no idea. He only knows what the one girl sounds like. I'm like, so you've been in school since September, October, November, December, January, for 6 months, and you only know 4 people. Like, how much socialization deficit are our kids? The vacuum that our kids are dealing with right now. They
Yeah.
have not met new people. Now, we're paying a pandemic. I'm just talking about the reality of what we have to deal with when we find a way to get back to schools and students going back to school. But students are lost a year of socialization, of connection. There's something to be said about that. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not as busy. I'm just a person who pays attention. And what I do know is that we're going to have something to contend with when we get back to school. Because imagine all the 5th graders who just went to 6th grade. You were looking forward to middle school. Yeah, I get to go to different classes now. And now you're sitting at home just being like another elementary school. How are you meeting people? How are you learning how to communicate and learn how to take up space or not take up space? How are you learning how to share? How are you learning how to, like, where are you? And now I'm not saying that you can't learn some of those skills at home, because a lot of skills are learned in home. But you imagine if the home is not a good place, or it's not well, then what's happening in this last 10, 12 months that we're in February now. So we're about to be at 1 year of students kind of being at home. And so anyway, just all those things I think about. And, with our circles of young men, we have a circle grades 4 through 6. And we got together on Sunday. Their parents brought them to be a part of this boys circle. We get together once a month. If they were through Zoom, ideally we can get together in person, let them have some fresh air. And they need it. They're you could tell. I mean, these are elementary. They're hungry for it. You could tell they just want to wrestle. I'm not, and I got to be careful not being the guardian, like, don't touch. And I got to be careful that I, give them some room to kind of just be, like, to bump up
Yeah.
against each other, but also knowing that I don't want anybody to get sick. That's not any of the intention. And being mindful of all the the potential consequences of making that space for them, even though I try to make it as safe as possible. So I just, there's a dance that needs to happen with all this energy that our boys and young people are dealing with, not just young men, but every student is dealing with energy that's getting stifled. And so how do we find ways and being creative of them getting some of that energy out in healthy ways? Because we don't, we know that it has the potential of coming out in unhealthy ways.
Yeah. Yeah. What is something, if there was one thing that you could change about the education system
Mm.
and you had the power, a magic wand, whatever, what is that one thing that you would change?
Yeah. I think that Oh man, one thing. Okay, I got a list. I got a list. Let me think of one. Oh, one that's gonna have the biggest impact. Oh we. Huh. Okay. Yeah, this is tricky, right? Because so, um, oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. 'Cause I'm trying to get to one. Okay. I'm trying to think about. Here's what I truly believe. I believe that teachers are severely underpaid. I think that if we want to, let me step aside for a second. Let me move it to another level. Here's what I think also because a part of me wants to, let me just be really honest about how I'm struggling with it. So I was a teacher for 10 years. I was an administrator for 3, and I was a student in a bunch of schools where teachers I don't think got treated well. And so they treated us not well. So I think as a teacher, when I left my engineering career to become a teacher, I felt financially like really stressed. And I don't know how other teachers handle stress, but I know as a myself, I purposely had to not take it out on my students. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like, don't be mad at them that you can't pay all your bills this month. It's not their fault. Don't blame them because you're struggling to do X, Y, Z. Don't blame them because you can't take a vacation in the summer. Don't like it's not the kids' fault. It's the system that has been designed in a way that is set up like that. So I think that paying teachers better, that's one of the things that really makes me feel. But would that fix the situation? And I don't know that it's fixing the situation. So I want to add. So I want to say it like this. I want to say, as much as that would be kind of like really high on my list, I think professional development for teachers is critical. And I think not just so if I wanted to change one thing, and now as an outsider who goes into schools, I see so many schools who don't provide professional development for their teachers. And the challenge is that you are not going. Man, I got so many, man, dude. Oh man. Every time I say an answer, I like want to say a different answer. So, well, okay. You know what? I'm gonna give I'm gonna give a real time answer right now. Here's what needs to change. Let me just be really. Let me just be as thorough as I can on this. Schools must look different. We're not any longer going to have schools where we're expecting every student to show up to the building, to do work like every other student, and to sit in these uncomfortable chairs for 8 hours a day and expect them to learn to prepare for the 21st century the way the 21st century works. So what I think needs to change is that schools need to create hybrid learning environments. There's some students going to learn at home because they that works for them. There's some students going to learn coming to the building, excellent. And some students are going to learn in work, in jobs. They're gonna have their academic part. They're gonna have their job training part. And so I think there needs to be a hybrid way that schools operate, because I think that is what I believe is causing a lot of the other problems we see in schools. So that's my answer. That's my final answer. Final answer is that it needs to be a hybrid model of schooling. Like some are going to learn at school, some are going to learn from at home, and some are going to learn in the workforce. They're going to learn on the job training while they're getting their diploma, because everyone doesn't want to go to college, but we can provide them a trade or skills that can pay them really, really well. I mean, great paying jobs, but not feeling that they are bad at the life because they can't sit in a desk for 7 hours. So that's my final answer. And it's hard, and it's hard to give it one. It's hard to give it one answer.
Yeah. And I'll take that final answer. And what I'll take from that final answer is that there's a lot of work, and I hope our listeners take away that there's a lot of work to be done with our education system, and there's no one pill that's going to solve what we're facing right now, the struggle that we're in right now.
That's the truth. That is the truth. That is so much the truth.
Yeah. Well,
What a
thank you
great
so
question.
much.
Oh man, what a great question. I was like, how do I answer this? Like,
Yeah.
that was awesome. That was, to appreciate that question. I'm going to write about it tonight. I'm going to actually put it in my journal. Like, okay, like I'm going to actually ask that question out to some teachers. If you could change one thing, what would you, if you could change? Because, now we have somebody in the administration who is educator focused.
Yeah.
Like if any time there was going to be opportunities to make education better, I'm hoping, I'm hoping that this will be the time. And so, that's what I hope. So I hope that we begin to have this dialogue about how do we improve. And now that schools were forced to look different, I mean, imagine before COVID, most schools looked like they did 100 years ago. Teacher in
Mhm.
the front, a bunch of rows, students listen to the teacher. You memorize what the teacher tells you. 2 weeks later, you tell the teacher back what they told you. If you tell them wrong, you're going to get a low grade. You tell it well, you get a good grade. That's what it was. That's what most schools were. You may have some schools that have tables and some schools that has spinning desks or whatever. But for the most part, school looked the same. So I mean, I'm saying all that to say, I think that this unfortunate situation that we're dealing with, this pandemic, is caused us to recognize that we can make school look differently, and therefore we better do it when it's time to figure out how to put this thing back together. As
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, I thank you all. Thank you for letting me answer that and to say that too.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to let you off the hook without asking you something I ask everybody who comes on here.
Yeah.
6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old Ashanti. I'm going to ask you to visualize him, picture him, see him. And when you can see him, what advice would you give him?
Mm, 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 mm. Oh wow, there's so many. Ashanti. Oh man, wow. Wow, wow, wow. What? That's beautiful. Ashanti, you are enough. Not what you do, not what you accomplish, not any accolades, not any degrees, not how much money you make, but you're enough and you matter. And I want you to use your voice and don't hide behind the fear that what you have to say, no one wants to hear. That's what I would tell him. Wow. 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 Yeah. That's what I would tell him. Ooh-wee. That one came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Wow. Oh, wow. That, man. Yeah.
Now, is that something that you live by today more often than not?
Yeah. Definitely more often than not. I have been working really hard on taking, and like, in my phone, I have like 200 videos that I've not shared. And this year, 2021, I have, this year, 2021, I made a decision in January that I'm going to start sharing those videos. Like, I'm gonna just start rounding them up, sharing them every day. You need to share a video. And I'm more on than off, but definitely more on than ever before. But I still fight myself for, like, man, that's too old. No one cares about that. That's too, and it's not for anybody else. It's for me because it's a fear. So I think I'm definitely more on than not, and I'm pushing past that fear. So that's yeah, I am definitely more living into that same advice now than I ever have before. And yeah, I wish somebody had just told me earlier. I wish I had the belief earlier.
Mm,
Yeah,
nice.
man, man, oh man, that was a beautiful question. I appreciate that question. That was it hit me, and I think that my younger self, I've been doing a lot of work on, like, breaking free, like, and now I get to do that. every day I get to like keep being conscious of it. Like when is it like usually I'm telling myself like I post every day. Usually when it's happening, it's like 11:30. I'm like, oh, I better find a post. And when it was, I do it to myself. I set myself up, right? But okay, 11, I better get a post together. And then I'm like trying to edit the video. I'm trying to do this. And then it's like 12:02. And I'm like, oh, you missed it. And then I'm like, well, I'll just do it tomorrow. And so then what I find myself is like the fear is holding me, making me start later. And I'm like, why are you not posting at 5 p.m.? Why are you not posting at, right? Why are you waiting until 11 o'clock to start getting the post ready? And it's still fear. It's not that the fear went away because I told myself don't fear anymore. But my goal is every day I fear a little bit less. I'm gonna be, I don't know that I'll ever be fearless, but I'm gonna fear less every day, and I'm gonna keep pushing it. And that's what's exciting for me. So I'm trying to take more of the advice that I easily can give to others, right? Yeah.
Well, thank you, brother. That's beautiful. Thanks for coming in today and sharing. And as we leave, where can our listeners find Ashanti Branch and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, on social media, you can find us at Ever Forward Club, and that's on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. And if you want to find my work, it's Branch Speaks, and that's the same thing, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And so Ever Forward Club or Branch Speaks. And if you want to make a mask, you can go to 100kmasks.com. And we look forward to you being a part of the movement. And so thank you for having me on today. I'm so glad I got to talk to you today. And thank you for having me on your show.
Yes, thank you for coming. And it's been educational for me. And I hope our listeners take something away from it. And I hope that they go and create their own mask.
Please do.
All right, man. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you.